guess what? We're live. It's 8 o'clock. It's Saturday, the 12th of August 2023, and we are doing What a Week That Was live. What we're doing is I'm going to do breaking news firstest, because it's more important that it's more important that we do the breaking news first, because that's what they do in all the news programmes. So I thought we'll do that. We'll see what's going on. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's completely no good. Baby among two killed after migrant barge capsizes off Tunisia. That was 33 minutes ago, so that is just breaking news, tragic news yet again. Reports of Anchor Lane in Inglemells being closed following a road traffic collision in Lincolnshire. 6 men who died in the Channel tragedy were Afghan men. How to open a can without a can opener? Well, that's easy. You hit it with a massive mallet. I mean, you have to be very careful because you know, the food will go everywhere. What else is going on? Suspected gunman arrested on Dorset Beach. People are sick of having our heritage knocked down. How the Crooked House saga become state of the nation story. Yes, we are fed up of it, and if you watch my latest Wigan Watch and watch the last 3 minutes of the last Wigan Watch, you'll have seen my take on what is going on in Wigan, protecting our heritage. Looks. What else? Council's facing biggest ever pothole repair backlog. What are you doing, cat? Excuse me. What are you doing? Just being naughty. Ship has warned to stay away from Iranian waters over seizure threats. Yeah, that's it, I think, for breaking news. There's nothing breaking. So yeah, we'll get on with our regular stuff. Hello, Alan. We're not doing the bear story this week. Good evening and drinking time, Smiley Mac. Indeed, you were in the shop for about 30 seconds today. What are you doing, cat? Cat's on one tonight. I don't know what's up with her. Anyway, she'll calm down. She always does when I start talking too much. Etiquette. So yeah, we are going to do the world's news, and we're going to do American news without actually any gun crime. I'm not saying there was no gun crime in America. What I'm saying is we're not going to report the gun crime in America on this episode to see how quick we can do it. So, without further ado, we shall start with the news from last Sunday, because or Unday, as I like to say. That's the day where I don't wear underwear. Unday. Wigan was too busy. I went home fairly soon after. Yeah, tell me about it. It wasn't busy in my shop though. America without guns. No. America's got guns. Someone challenged me to do America news without the gun crime. So that's what I'm going to do. Hi Super Gamer players as well, hope you're well. So, let's get this show kicked off proper, like, innit? First thing up is a story in Manchester this week, which is 7 people were taken to hospital after a bus crashed in Oxford Street, Manchester city centre. Not a good thing, obviously. Hopefully those people will be okay. Didn't really know the news about it, didn't make national news, so I assume everything is okay. America sorted out their gun problems. No, they didn't. No, Smiley Mac, they're still killing people in America. We're just choosing not to go on about it this week. We're giving America a week off. I might give the council a week off as well in the newspaper this week. Yeah, right. Anyway, we start for the news on Sunday, and a massive tragedy with the trains in Pakistan. At least 30 killed in a train derailment, with well over 100 people killed. To be fair, if that was the actual final numbers, because it never got reported again, other news overtook it, I think that wasn't actually too bad. A 12-year-old boy was killed on the M62. He was walking along the carriageway with a man who was later arrested for letting a child die. It's all very confusing. Hopefully we'll find out more what's happened. But yeah, pretty horrendous stuff going on there. Meanwhile, on Monday, we got the news that 4 hill walkers had passed away whilst walking along a... Oh no, that was on Sunday as well. No, it's not. Three hill walkers died on a walk in Glen Chovit, which is not good at all. I appear to be missing a photo, so I'm going to skip to this photo, which is actually a photo for later on in the week, but we'll go with this one. The first migrants moved onto the barge. Now these first migrants are the ones that are waiting for their results and everything, and this barge is the thing that's been hanging around for quite a while, trying to sort it out, and everyone's saying, no, it's inhumane and we're treating them like cattle and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, no, they've come over here and they're probably not legging. So yeah, it's not good. They look naked for a second. Look naked for a second. Well, look naked for a sec. You've thrown me with that. I'm not in the swing of it yet, and you've already thrown me. Meanwhile, house prices fall dramatically, for the first time in a long while, and they are now lower than what they were over a year ago. Which, to be fair, isn't that bad. House prices do seem to be the thing that you're probably best buying if you can. The average house price in the UK now is £285,000. Obviously in Wigan it's a lot less. Oh, the train story. Oh no, they're soldiers in uniform. Yeah, they're rescuers. Oh. But yeah, house prices have dropped a little bit. Which is not good if you own a house. But if you do own a house and you've had it for more than 20 years, it's worth considerably more than it was when you bought it. So let's not worry about that, shall we? No. Anyway, that was Monday. Tuesday. And lots of stuff was occurring on Tuesday, as it usually does. In fact, Tuesday I think it's the busiest day. There was a monumental data breach in Northern Ireland Police, where everyone's information, including stations, addresses and various other bits and pieces, were released online for 2 hours after a Freedom of Information request was received, asking how many police officers there are in each department. They actually named them and said where they were, which you don't want to do in Northern Ireland, let's be honest. Hopefully we're going to be, well, they're going to be alright, but it's not looking good. Meanwhile, in Portugal, huge blazes, wildfires wreaking havoc. People are saying that it's going to go to the Algarve, so there might be people being removed from their holidays. Meanwhile, the lungs of the earth was being discussed at a South American summit. The Amazon rainforest, which has been deforested considerably for the last 20-30 years, they are now trying to save, and they've come to an agreement about it. And I think the rest of the world should pay people not to destroy it and basically let it grow back again, because we need the Amazon rainforest. I appreciate people live there, they shouldn't really necessarily, It's humans again being, we're the greatest, so therefore we can live wherever we want and screw everyone else, and it doesn't work like that. Meanwhile, it's the first meeting in 50 years as well, to be fair. So there was a fire at a pub which is called the Crooked House, and it had been sold to a private buyer, and it was due to be renovated. Basically, the story of the pub is it's very old. It was built on land that isn't great, and it kind of started sinking a little bit. The whole thing started sinking, so everything's all a bit wonky in it. And when you're inside it, you'd be stood next to a clock, and the clock will look like it's leaning, but the clock's actually straight. It's the rest of the building that's leaning inside. So it was a popular tourist attraction. Anyway, sadly, it caught fire. The day after it caught fire, it was then demolished. Turns out that the demolition of this pub was not recommended by the surveyors. It also possibly hid evidence of maybe arson, and it most definitely broke the planning permission rules when the council had said that it could be repaired, and it was just knocked down. Apparently, when the fire was on, the actual entrance to where the pub is, the car park, there was loads of soil that had just appeared and loads of rubble that had appeared the day before, and the fire engines couldn't get to the pub to save it. Yet the day after the fire, a JCB could go get through that and knock everything down. So suspicious, methinks. Meanwhile, sad story of Sinead O'Connor, who was found deceased last week in London. She was buried this week in her hometown in Ireland, and really, really sad story. Had a troubled life, and it was just horrendous. Insurance claim. Well, yes, that's what people are thinking, that it's an insurance claim, but we don't know, because obviously we are not privy to such things. The pub thing is very, very peculiar. Meanwhile, migrant tragedy, again, this time in the Mediterranean. 4 people survive, but many, many more dead as a boat sank crossing the Mediterranean. The Northern Ireland police breach was described as disgraceful, and turns out a laptop with other information on had also been stolen, helpfully. Meanwhile, the Crooked House pub, it turns out that the police now think it definitely was arson, and they are looking into it, and more so after the pub had been demolished, to possibly hide any evidence of the reason why the fire started, because it was quite a place that is not overly populated, but the fire was really old before the fire brigade got there, so it all seems a bit dodgy, but obviously we don't know for definite. Meanwhile, it was reported that Hawaii was having its own bit of a terrible time with wildfires, and Portugal also was burning as well, while we were still getting wet through with the rain. Bad news for China. It was a tourist hotspot. Yeah, very good smell, mate. China is in crisis, apparently. Exports are 14.5% down. A lot of companies are going bust in China, and a lot of development companies are pulling out of deals in China, and a lot of buildings have been demolished in China that have been built that no one's ever moved into. In fact, they've not even been finished. They're just concrete towers with no windows, doors or any fittings, and they're just getting levelled. The Chinese economy is tanking big time, which is sad really, because everything that's going on in Wigan at the moment regarding the gallery's demolition and rebuild is Chinese money. So this could be a big impact to Wigan. Not that anyone could possibly have predicted all this. more sad news. We lost the designer, Jamie Reed, at the age of 76. He was the designer of Poor China, yes. He was the designer of many iconic images, particularly from the 70s and 80s, including a lot of the Sex Pistols album covers, single covers, and just general artwork of that era, including the very famous portrait of God Save the Queen, where the eyes were blacked out. And he was reported to say that because obviously they didn't have the technology back then, he genuinely used clips out of newspapers, like a ransom note, to actually design his things, because he didn't have any money to do it professionally. And yeah, it was it's really cleverly done and iconic. And even now you see people with the Never Mind the Bollocks t-shirts on and all that kind of stuff. It was all him. Did loads of other stuff as well, and was very pally with Vivienne Westwood, who passed away I think last year. She was the punk designer and enigmatic character. So yeah, that was a Wednesday, which brings us stubbornly to a day called Thursday. Now Thursday is an exciting day because news occurred. It wasn't good news, but it still occurred. The fires in Hawaii were a lot worse than what we initially thought, and by Thursday it was reported that 36 people were dead and many were missing. It's a major disaster. What didn't help the situation was the fact that the Hawaiian Islands, as you know, are in the middle of the Pacific. They're miles away from America, and thus they are exposed to all weathers. And they had a hurricane come through, but it was a dry hurricane, which is unusual, which just basically blew the fire at a ridiculous speed, and people just couldn't outrun it, so they were literally burned to death in the cars or in the houses. It's just absolutely awful. And you always think of Hawaii as being some kind of paradise. Obviously I've never been. The closest I've ever been is watching Magnum PI and playing Test Drive Unlimited. But yeah, it's just really sad, and I don't know how it's going to recover, because again, like I said, it's literally in the middle of nowhere, thousands of miles away. It's going to take a long time to rebuild it, and never mind all the fauna and fauna that have been lost, animals and all that kind of thing as well. It's just absolutely shocking. NHS waiting lists are now over 7 million. Now, I said when I was doing my weekly, daily vlogs, I was saying that that we had the Nightingale hospitals, if you remember, when we had lockdown and all that kind of thing, when COVID came along, and we already had a waiting list then that wasn't great. And what I said was, what we need to do is use these Nightingale hospitals that the taxpayer has paid millions and millions of pounds to set up, that haven't really been used for anything. But what we could do is use them to rehabilitate people who've had operations. So if you've got people who need replacement hips, replacement knees, all that kind of thing, you know, simple-ish regular hospital operations, what we could do is, you have your operation in hospital as normal, you go back to the ward as normal. After a day or so, because you're not allowed home straight away, you are then transferred to one of these Nightingale hospitals, where you will be treated with nurses and doctors on site, as well as volunteer nurses, and maybe re-employ, because this was the whole plan of the Nightingale hospitals if COVID became major, re-employ recently retired medical staff as well. And that way we could possibly double up the amount of operations that we could do in the hospitals without needing extra beds in the hospital. We just transfer people to these Nightingale hospitals. And obviously no one listened, because, well, I wasn't as big as I am now. But I didn't even know. Oh no, I think it just topped 1,000 subs. But no, it just seemed common sense to me. We've got these things, we've got all these beds. it's obviously been sorted out for medical, it's passed tests for medical things, i.e. it's safe for people to be there who've got medical conditions. So why can't we use them to rehabilitate people, and then when they're well enough send them home, which then frees up that bed, so then you can keep doing it. And it just seemed common sense to me. But no, they ripped all these Nightingale hospitals down, and we've now got 7.5 million people waiting for standard treatments in hospitals. I appreciate that things like cataracts and scans for cancers and things like that is a different thing. But if people are in pain with knees and hips and all that kind of thing, then it just seems sensible. Which brings me to the next thing. Why don't we do that anyway? Why don't we make, all these empty office buildings, why don't we make some of them into wards where we can take people once they've had an operation and they've got over the initial risk time of having an operation, and then take them to these offices which are now converted into wards and do the same thing there. Be a little bit more expensive because they're not as big, and therefore you need more people because of different floors. But we've got to do something to get rid of this, and that seems the logical thing to do. And I'm pretty sure that recently retired nurses and doctors would be more than happy to help their colleagues in clearing the backlog. Anyway, good evening Luke, and good evening Artemis as well. I hope you are both well. I thought it was someone commentating about this. Shame they are demolishing old hospitals that got replaced with new ones that are half the size and capacity. Yeah, but to be fair, a lot of the old hospitals, because my first 8 years of leaving school was spent in hospital, which was basically a converted workhouse, a Victorian workhouse. And to say it was unsuitable for a hospital would be an understatement, because all the rooms were tiny and all that kind of thing. Okay, smiling back, I'll see you in a bit. But yeah, it wasn't suitable for what it was needed, and the Victorian hospital that was built around this also was decaying and all that kind of stuff. So what they did was, in the hospital I was at, Tameside Hospital in Ashton-under-Lyne, they actually built a brand new hospital in the car park area, and actually built it within. So if you had two wards like that, 2 blocks of wards, and a gap in the middle, they actually built the hospital in the gaps as well. So they basically fitted it in to the space that was available, and then demolished, when it was built and opened, demolished the hospital's buildings around it, the old Victorian ones, and they were full of cockroaches and rats, and it was disgusting. And the new hospital was built, and it's fantastic. However, that was 40 years ago, and things have gone a bit downhill because they weren't built well, and all these new buildings that are being built are starting to show their age already, and they're not even 50 years old yet. And that is the worry, that they built these hospitals that now they're just starting to fall apart. I mean, I've not been in Tameside Hospital for a while, but I've seen other buildings that are similar. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So Smiley Mac has gone to somewhere, I don't know, shop, buy some alcohol, I assume, or some crisps, or something. Anyway, that was, oh no it wasn't, oh no, there's me thinking we'd finished. No, we haven't finished on Thursday, because there's still some news coming. The tragic news, if you work for Wix, or you shop, not Wix, Wilko, or you shop at Wilko, is the fact that they have, last week we reported they were going into administration. This week they've actually gone into administration, which means unless someone buys the company, that all the shops are going to shut. And like I said last week, I don't think there's a possibility that anyone's going to buy it, because the only people who could afford to buy it would be B&M's, maybe Home Bargains, maybe The Range, but I doubt it, maybe Dunelm's, but again I doubt that. But the first two, B&M's and Home Bargains, why would they buy Wilko's? Because those two companies have got hundreds of stores around the country already. No doubt they're struggling as well with the cost of living crisis and everything going up, wages, energy to keep the shops lit, and also food prices going up, so their raw materials going up, so they're having to charge people more, so everything's going up for them as well. So why would they buy Wilko's when more often than not they're both in the same time anyway? It's like buying something just in order to shut it down again. Whereas if you leave it and don't spend a penny of it, it'll shut down and you're still on your own. But you've not lost any money doing it, and you won't have to pay redundancy or anything daft like that. So I don't think anyone's going to buy them outright. I think they will go bust. But what might happen then is some companies might rent the units that Wilko's were in and do it that way rather than buying the whole company, because even if someone paid £1 for Wilko, which has happened in many other times with many other companies, including Game at one point, they were sold for £1, you've still got to invest millions and millions and millions and pay off the debts and all that kind of stuff, and that's not going to happen because people haven't got that kind of money at the minute. So I think Wilko's, sadly, is not going to be around for very long at all. I'd be surprised if it was still here at the end of the month. I think it's literally that far off disappearing forever. Gordon Brothers Ways rescue bid for retailer Wilko's. Yeah, but that was days ago, and nothing's happened since. Wilko's has gone into administration after that because there's no one wanting to buy it. And you're not going to buy a company that's failing on the high street that's failing. It's just madness. But anyway, I hope I'm proved wrong. Sadly, it's very rare I am proved wrong. It always worries me a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, Virgin Galactic actually took its first 3 paying passengers. Gentleman in the middle, 80-year-old, he paid for his ticket 25 years ago. Since then he's got Parkinson's disease, but he said he was determined to live long enough to go on his flight into space. And then you've got a mother and daughter combo either side of him as well, who also went into space. And yeah, it looked like it was great fun, and he was very happy, and he got interviewed, and the woman who interviewed him says, so you since becoming diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, you've been up Kilimanjaro, and you've now been in space, what's next? And he laughed and went, I think I'll go to the moon. Well, he's in luck, because Russia have launched a rocket to the moon to land a vehicle of some kind on the moon. It's not a manned space trip. It is just a some kind of robot-y type thing. No one really knows what it is until it gets there. But anyway, they're on the way to the moon, so he might end up on the moon. Who knows? But yeah, I was made up for him. But it seems a bit weird particularly after the rich people passing away going in the completely opposite direction, down to the bottom of the sea, in the submarine thing, the Titan submersible. It does seem weird that we're still getting people to pay hundreds of thousands of pounds to risk their lives. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Anyway, we then ended up on Friday. Fires in Hawaii have now claimed 36 people as of Friday. Absolutely horrendous scenes. Literally towns laid waste. I mean, it's worse than a bomb zone, a war zone. It's absolutely shocking, because all these houses are pretty old. They're pretty much all made of wood, and yeah, they've just been absolutely destroyed, and the fire ripped through so quick that sadly there's probably going to be many people who will be found in the ashes of their homes. Back to migrants. The Migrant Barge, which took its first guests on Monday, evacuated them because, well, yeah, let's be honest, they didn't want to catch legionnaires. There was legionnaires found in bacteria found in the water on the ship, so they've evacuated everyone, and they're trying to clean it all out, and then they'll put people back on again. But now they're saying that they've been very, very traumatised again, so they don't want to go back on it. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what becomes of the barge. Meanwhile, people are impressed by this, or not impressed. Harry Kane has signed for Bayern Munich. I mean, you know, I'm far be it from me to say anything, but I don't give a monkey's left dangly bit. It's just, yeah, whatever. Yeah, well done. Today, in the channel, a boat has sunk with migrants on it, at least 6 dead, and 2 still missing, but 50 were rescued. These people who were making money from the migrants, desperation to get over here, don't care about their well-beings. They don't care about whether they live or die. All they care about is getting the money off them, shoving them on the cheapest dinghy boat thing they can get as many of them on that as they can, and then just push it off and watch them disappear into the distance. To be fair, they probably don't even do that. They probably get someone else to do it, and they're just in their mansions somewhere with millions and millions and millions of euros. The whole thing is a nightmare. As I've said before, what I would do is just simply no documents. We can't process you, so you go straight back to France. If you've got documents, then we'll process you. But if you haven't got documents, we don't know who you are. You could be a rapist, a murderer, you could be a paedophile, you could be a terrorist, you could be anything. We don't know who you are, so why the hell should we put you up? No, if you've got no documents with you, you're straight back on that boat and come back through the proper things. Those who are being refused to go back on the barge are being housed in hotels in Macclesfield. Okay, I wasn't aware it was that local. It's a hell of a trek from Dorset. Meanwhile, going back to Hawaii, at least now 80 people are dead, but many, many, many are missing as the fires are still raging there. They're not as bad as they were because the winds have died down, but they are still absolutely terrible scenes. And I mean, it's unlikely I'm ever going to be caught in anything like that. And it's like, what would you do? And I'd be like, well, if I knew where the area well, and I knew there was a straight road, and the fire's coming towards me from that road, I would actually drive through the fire. Because if you're driving with the fire, and the fire's travelling, and with the hurricane winds, it's going to be travelling at the same speed as your car. Whereas if you go the other way, in a few hundred yards, you're going to be the other side of the fire where everything's already burned. So you're not likely to catch fire. The problem is, when you're driving through the fire, you can't see a damn thing. So you could hit a vehicle, or the road could bend, or there could be debris that's fallen down onto the road, or whatever. But I'd sooner take that risk than try and outrun it the other way, because that seems to be what the problem is. People are getting caught in traffic. And I think if you went the wrong way, you would get through the line of fire. Because whenever you see the fire from the air, it's always a line of fire, and then there's the burnt debris after the fire. And the line of fire might be 50 metres wide or less. In some places it's inches wide. But if you go the other way, then you're through that straight away. And well, that's what I'd do. But I'm not an expert, and I've not been in that situation. If I was in that situation, heaven forbid, and I feel sorry for everyone who has been, then yeah, I'd probably think very differently about that. Anyway, this brings us to our brand new Meanwhile in America. What's going on in America? I don't know what's going on in America. There's no gun crime reported this week in America. Okay, that's not true. There was reported, but we're not talking about it this week from America. So yeah, we are going to just look at the news without the gun crime involved in it. Brazen New York City crew behind $3 million auto theft ring busted after flashing wads of cash and the cars on social media. Yeah, hello sir. One thing you don't do if you're a criminal is go on social media with your face waving loads of cash around. Look at all these hundreds of thousands of dollars I got, aren't I great? Look, it's on my social media with my name. And oh yeah, and I put my address in when I signed up to social media when I wasn't a criminal. Oh, and I've been arrested now by the FBI. Oh dear, I'm going to jail. Yeah, basically. Bronx car theft crew behind a major $3 million crime ring was busted after members were caught flashing wads of cash and stolen vehicles on social media. 6 members of the Brazen crew were caught targeting car dealerships, cell phone stores and ATM businesses amid a soaring grand larceny auto rate in New York City. Yeah, not the brightest people in the block. Meanwhile, Democrat Republican, no, not her, a Democrat, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, equates Bidenomics to hangover from Trump's mishandling of pandemic. You're like, what? Republican Debbie Wasserman Schultz told CNN that President Biden's negative economic polling was due to a hangover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, absolutely. What the hell are you talking about, you silly woman? She's American, so we give her an excuse to be, pardon me, silly woman. New York PD buys top-of-the-line tactical flying tech, explores drone. I assume that means drone. Drone tech is really taking off at the NYPD. The nation's largest police department has spent tens of thousands of dollars on top-of-the-line tactical drones so far this year and is exploring the use of new technology to help cops answer 9/11 calls in the future. City records show the NYPD recently put in orders for a number of new aerial bots from Brit Inc., a Seattle-based company. Now, if you watch, I think it's on Channel 5, there's a new TV show come on, and it's basically, I think it's called Aerial Coppers or something like that, and it's showing you the drones in action, and they've got tiny little drones like you can pick up from a model shop. They're about that big, and then you got ones, I mean high, I don't mean they're actually that big, I mean they're actually about that big, but they're about that high, and then you've got ones that are a bit bigger, and then you've got ones that are like the proper massive ones, and they've got heat sensitive cameras, UVs, all that kind of stuff on them, and obviously they're a lot cheaper to do than a helicopter. Helicopters are the way they did it in the past, and we've all watched crime shows, live action fly on the wall crime shows, police shows, where helicopters have been involved, and we've all seen the police chase and all that kind of thing. Well, now they're doing it with drones. It's a lot quicker. You can have more drones up in a city rather than one helicopter. So one helicopter searching for an old man who's gone missing from an old people's home, and meanwhile at the other side of town there's someone who's stabbed someone and they've run off into some fields. Which one do you go for? Do you go, do you try and rescue the old guy who's gone for a walk out of an old people's home, or do you look for an attempted murderer? Well, this way you can do both, and they are amazing. They pan out the show a lot. There's a lot of padding in that show, showing the drones and everything, but they are really, really cool. Skycoppers, that's it. You watch it as well. But yeah, it's good and it's cheap, and obviously the technology has come on in leaps and bounds, as we know. When I bought my drone a couple of years ago, which was absolute waste of space. Meanwhile, Monster Hunter vows to find fabled creature Nessie during largest Loch Ness search in 50 years. She can't hide forever. Well, no, she can't. I mean, if you don't exist, you can't hide, can you? But anyway, the Loch Ness Centre is calling on monster hunters around the world to find the fabled Loch Ness creature in the largest hunt for the underwater beast in 50 years. The centre runs a tourist attraction by the freshwater loch in the Scottish Highlands and has teamed up with the Loch Ness Exploration Volunteer Group to host Quest Weekend in August. Yeah, it's just a way of getting more tourists there, isn't it? Obviously the Nessie story has been flagging a little bit. Tourist numbers have gone down, so they thought, you know what we'll do this. Now I vaguely remember watching Blue Peter. It might have been about 50 years ago, and there was a line of little boats that had sensors that were bouncing things off the bottom of the loch, and they went the whole length of it and they didn't find a thing. And that's probably because there's cold air. But anyway, if you're really bored, you can go up to look for Nessie. Lizzo loses nearly 220,000 Instagram followers since the sex harass lawsuit. Her fans ain't feeling good as hell. I assume that's one of her songs, I wouldn't know. But Lizzo's official Instagram account has lost nearly 220,000 followers since three former backup dancers sued her over alleged sexual harassment, a hostile work environment, and for pressuring them to participate in sex shows. Yeah, people don't like it when the people they admire turn out not to be nice people, but we don't know for definite. All might be made up. She might be wonderful to work for. Historic floods in Alaska forces evacuations as buildings and trees are swept away. So we've got fires in American state of Hawaii. We've got fires in Europe. We've got flooding in Italy, as well as fires in Italy as well. And now we've got flooding in Alaska. Evacuations have been ordered and structures have been washed away after a major release at the suicide basin in Janeiro, Alaska. Sent water rushing into Mendenhall Lake and river, leading into significant and historic flooding. So basically, yeah, it's all going very wrong for the weather all over the world. Highly provocative, Russia and China conduct joint naval operations off the coast of Alaska. It's got nothing to do with the floods. They're not changing the weather. Although technically they are, because China is releasing more carbon than any other country in the world. And Russia, well, it's just Russia, isn't it? China and Russia conducted a joint naval operation near the coast of Alaska earlier this week in a highly provocative move amid the war in Ukraine that triggered a robust US military response. 11 Russian and Chinese ships neared the Aleutian Islands off the coast of Alaska earlier this week, near the maritime boundary of Russia. Don't forget, when you look at a map, you've got Alaska on that side and you've got Russia on that side. And you're like, oh, they're miles apart. But no, you've got to remember, the world is round. Flat earthers, you're wrong. The world is round. So when you look on the other side, they're actually together. There's literally 20 miles. I think it's about the same distance as the channel from Russia to Alaska. The thing is that it's not a heavily populated part of Russia. Basically, you've got all of Siberia. You've got about 3 different time zones and blah, 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 blah before you get to Moscow. And then going the other way, you've got multiple time zones as well before you get to Washington and all that. So it's actually easier to attack each other from over Europe than what it would be to do it the other way, even though looking at it, it's the other way around is easier, but it's not. So there you go. What I expect one day is you'll be able to catch a train from one and go to the other. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Ian Watkins, former singer of Lost Prophets and convicted paedophile, is stabbed in prison. Well, sympathy? I don't think so. Hopefully it was serious. Boy 6 seriously hurt in fall from Florida roller coaster. I think this was breaking as we were on last week. 6-year-old boy was rushed to hospital after falling off a roller coaster and suffering traumatic injuries in Florida. It's unclear what caused the unidentified boy to slip from the ride, but one witness said he saw the child standing on a roller coaster. Units arrived to find a 6-year-old with traumatic injuries under the roller coaster track, which is approximately 20 feet above. So yeah, it's pretty horrendous. I've not heard anything since, so hopefully the child is making a recovery. But if he was stood up on a roller coaster, I hope to God there was someone, oh, there should have been someone there to say, "Oi, sit down." Record-breaking heat wave drags on across southern US while northern tier feels a taste of fall, which is autumn in American speak. Blistering temperatures continue to plague the southern US from California to Florida this week for yet another week that will undoubtedly cause records to fall. There is relief from the sweltering summer heat wave, however, to get it you'll need to head north because, yeah, you're flooding. So somewhere in the middle, I imagine it's going to be actually quite pleasant, but we don't know. Dirt bike rider wanted in Pennsylvania after intentionally hitting a man running over him twice. A dirt bike rider is wanted in Pennsylvania after authorities say the suspect targeted a 64-year-old man, striking him once before running the victim over a second time. The victim was walking around 7:50 p.m. when the rider of the illegal dirt bike intentionally hit him and then turned around and ran him over again, which is horrific, but is what they should have done in Jeepers Creepers when they run over it, over the thing. But you don't do it in real life, it's a film. A helicopter fighting California bushfire crashes after mid-air collision. A firefighting helicopter that was working to extinguish a bushfire in California crashed in a mid-air collision, according to reports. The helicopter was at the scene of a fire in a 20-acre of Native American lands at 5 p.m. when it went down. The crash happened just south of the Mangarono Casino in Riverside County. It doesn't say what it crashed into. I would assume another helicopter or something, but either way, horrible. A burglar takes a break from robbing a home to cozy up with an over-friendly family dog. He even was heard saying, "I love you too." So much for a man's best friend. This is a guard dog, remember. A suspected bike thief in California was seen pausing his alleged crime to pet cuddle with the victim's golden retriever. Surveillance footage of the home shows. In rather peculiar turn of events, as the suspect was about to make his escape, he paused to pet the household dog who had entered the garage. And if you've seen the video, it's hilarious. The dog comes in and you think, oh, he's in trouble now, and it comes over and it's wagging its tail. It's looking very happy because it's a dog and there's someone there. So the guy gives it a cuddle and a little stroke, and then the dog just rolls over and goes, "Go on, tickle me belly." It doesn't say that, but that's what it's doing. It was like that, and yeah, it was a beautiful. Just unfortunate that the guy was stealing an electric bike, but at least no dogs were armed in it, so that's the main thing. A mama bear named Hank the Tank and 3 cubs captured after almost 24 confirmed home invasions in the past year. DNA testing. It's like, what? California wildlife officials have captured a massive black bear dubbed Hank the Tank after a string of home invasions over the past year. Wildlife biologists for the Californian Department of Fish and Wildlife captured the large female black bear and her 3 cubs, and hopefully are going to rehouse them and not euthanize them, because let's be honest, the bears have every right to be there. We have no right to be where animals are. And when people moan about being attacked by sharks, or when people decide that otters that like surfboards need to be captured, it's like, no, we are invading their area. And if she's got cubs as well, well, no, you don't do anything like that. Harrowing video shows car with terrified 12-year-old girl inside plunge from a waterfall. Dramatic video shows the moment a car with a screaming 12-year-old girl trapped inside suddenly plunges over a waterfall in India, quickly followed by the girl's dad, who leapt in to save her, even though he cannot swim. Yeah, again, it's all to do with fast-flowing waters and erosion and all that kind of thing, but they were both rescued, and hopefully will make a full recovery. Snake, hawk land on woman in bizarre attack that left her arm shredded. A Texas woman suffered bloody injuries in an attack by 2 very different animals. A snake that fell out of the sky onto her arm, and a hawk that swooped down to retrieve its prey. Peggy Jones, 64, was on her tractor mowing. Sorry, I didn't read the picture. She was on a tractor. That's like the bizarrest accident ever, isn't it? Yeah, our mowing my lawn, and a snake fell on my arm, and then an eagle came down and grabbed the snake off my arm and rescued me from being bitten by the snake, but its talon shredded my arm. It's like, how do you explain that to the health insurance people? Anyway, it wrapped itself around her like a miniature boa constrictor, obviously. And she was waving her hand around to get rid of the boa constrictor, and then obviously the hawk saw it and came down and then tried to rip the it's not a boa constrictor, but tried to rip the horrific, but also hilarious. It's like, is that kind of thing happening in real life? Well, apparently so. COVID cases spiked 55% in New York. Doctors fear frightening new variants. In May, the COVID-19 emergency was officially declared over, but the coronavirus remains a lethal threat, according to an increasingly concerned medical community. The latest data from New York Statement Department of Health released says that COVID cases spiked by 55% since the prior week, with an average of 824 reported cases per day in the state, and hospital admissions for the disease rising exponentially. Well, they don't use that word because Americans are not that educated. Frightening photo shows gaping hole in New York sidewalk, revealing subway underneath. This isn't the kind of transparent strap hangers are looking for. A hole in Manhattan sidewalk has grown large enough that New Yorkers can look down and see subway cars running underneath their feet. Frightening photo as shown. So yeah, it's basically Secrets of the London Underground, but in New York. And you don't need to go underground to look at the trains. You can actually train spot whilst you're on the sidewalk, which is a pavement, obviously. Firefighters troll Elon Musk after another Tesla bursts into flames. Firefighters in California called out Elon Musk on his own social messaging site after a Tesla spontaneously burst into flames in the middle of a luxury car salvage yard. Metro Fire of Sacramento posted photos and videos on X, Musk's new name for Twitter, showing crews hosing down the scorched remains of his other company's electric car in Rancho Cordova. Now, the problem I have with electric cars is too numerous to mention, but you've got to bear in mind that they're incredibly dangerous. They're not going to save the planet, they're going to destroy the planet. And when they catch fire, you have a problem, because they're going to be on fire for quite a while, because they just keep igniting all the different batteries. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Also, as well, if you can't retweet things now on Twitter, X, you now repost them. Wow, that's good, isn't it? So if you go on Twitter, X, and you want to retweet something, you're now reposting it. A car crashes into second floor of Pennsylvania home and was left dangling from the roof in an intentional act. Now in America, the ground floor is the first floor and the first floor is the second floor, which kind of makes more sense than the way we do it, but here the ground floor is the ground floor and the first floor is the second floor. But anyway, so basically it landed on the upper floor of a house. A car launched into the air and landed on a second floor bedroom of a Pennsylvania home, where it remained dangling, and it was a scene straight out of an action movie. Officials with the Junction File Company responded to the wild crash in Alpharetta Road at around 3:15 and found the Toyota Corolla stuck on the roof. It does eventually fall off because gravity always wins. Yep. It's true though. Doc hits his child with golf cart in bizarre accident. Can't park there, mate. Very good. Dog hits child with golf cart in bizarre accidents. A 4-year-old girl in Michigan was injured Friday night in a bizarre incident involving a golf cart and a dog. The incident happened at Blues Brews and Barbecue in Westland, Michigan, about 35-minute drive west of Detroit. The department's arson dog, Bella, was sitting on the seat of a golf cart being used for an event. At some point, the dog jumped onto the floor and laid down across the accelerator pedal, causing the cart to lunge forward, hitting the 4-year-old child. Again, you couldn't write it. I mean, this is like No Guns Week is Bizarre News Week, Bizarre Accident Weeks. So we've had a woman having her arm shredded after a snake landed on it and then was retrieved by a hawk. We've had a car being parked in someone's bedroom on an upper floor, and now we've had a dog running over a 4-year-old. Welcome to America. Numbering floors from 0 is more like in IT. Eh? I don't understand. But yeah. Biden calls Grand Canyon one of world's 9 wonders and full of ironic species. Irony can be so ironic, Biden, eh? President Biden mistakenly called the Grand Canyon one of the world's 9 wonders and a haven for ironic species during a Tuesday speech in Arizona at the start of a swing through in the southwest. Folks, it's not hyperbole to suggest that there is no national treasures, none that is grander than the Grand Canyon, the 80-year-old said. The Grand Canyon, one of the Earth's 9 wonders of the world, literally. Oh my God, Biden, please don't stand again. I mean, you saved us from Trump, but I'm not sure whether that was a good thing. Russian flight delayed when passenger freaks out after seeing ghosts of Wagner Group mercenaries on board. Stop the plane, there's ghosts aboard. A man aboard a Russian S7 airlines flight was escorted off the plane after allegedly freaking out when he spotted ghosts of Wagner Group mercenaries aboard. The man, identified only as Vitaly, 39, by Russian outlet Baza and Mash, was seen in a viral video screaming on a plane that there are ghosts sat on the... I mean, if you're a ghost, you wouldn't need to go on a plane, would you? Because you could just appear wherever you wanted to appear. So I don't understand why they'd be on... Oh, yeah, of course. I keep forgetting. Ghosts don't exist. Fire breaks out at Russian warehouse near Putin's residence. Oh, what a shame. Russia's emergency service said on Thursday a warehouse, a town west of Moscow, between Vladimir Putin's official residence and Vnukovo airport, was on fire. It did not say how the fire had started at the warehouse 4 miles away from Putin's presidential residence. As of around midnight Moscow time, the fire was the size of 21,500 square feet. So that's a pretty sizable fire. Meanwhile, it's not been on for a while. Harry's back. Harry's back. Harry's back. Prince Harry said he'd happily live in Japan during a solo visit to Tokyo. Prince Harry said he would be happy to leave California behind, and even revealed the place he'd happily live. The Duke of Sussex, 38, spoke on Wednesday at the International Sports Promotion Society Sports Values Summer Edition Summit in Tokyo, where he expressed his love for the country and its culture. I've been involved in many charities for most of my life, and I get a huge amount of satisfaction for coming to Japan. So yeah, that's far enough away from us, isn't it? It's near enough as far away as America. So yeah, Harry, move to Japan, leave the Americans alone as well. New York City men sought in $300,000 Magic the Gathering cards heist at Indianapolis gaming convention. 2 men from the Big Apple are being sought in connection with the theft of $300,000 in gaming cards at popular convention in Indianapolis last week. Thomas Dunbar and Andrew Pearson Guami, who are considered persons of interest, are believed to be the men caught on surveillance footage rolling a pallet of aforementioned Magic the Gathering cards out of the premises. I bet California would be happy to, yeah. Meanwhile, Biden. Yay! Biden calls China ticking time bomb and says bad folks do bad things. Well, both of them are actually correct. Oh my God, Biden's better. President Joe Biden ominously called China a ticking time bomb, warning bad folks can do bad things, according to a pool report. The full context of Biden's menacing forecast was not clear, though the pool report said he had noted China's high unemployment and ageing population. Yeah, exactly. The population is falling in China. They're now saying that you can have more children, because obviously they limited it because the population was too big, which was actually sensible to a degree. Because, as I've said many times before, just because we're humans doesn't mean that we can just live anywhere we want without caring about anything. So yeah, fair play on them for that one, to try and, stop overpopulating. But now it's gone the other way. What are you going to do about it? Anyway, that was the very brief news from America. Meanwhile, what's going on in Australia? I'm looking down under in Australia. We're looking at Australia. What's going on in Australia? One of the weirdest possible crimes ever. Mushrooms. Someone has poisoned someone with mushrooms. Possibly. I mean, it's not a definite, it's still an ongoing thing. Homicide squad investigating 3 deaths after a dinner party. 2 women and a man aged between 66 and 70 have died from suspected mushroom poisoning this week after attending a dinner party at a home in Leongatha on July 29. Detectives have executed a search of a Leongatha home and interviewed a 48-year-old woman who has been released pending further inquiries. And you're like, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Oh yeah, carries on though. Wild mushrooms warning after another suspected poisoning. It comes following a third suspected fatal poisoning in Victoria. A third person has died, another person is fighting for their life after another suspected poisoning from wild mushrooms in Victoria. That's different from the one I've just spoke about. So don't eat mushrooms if you're in Victoria, Australia, is the only advice I can give you. Barbershop is campaigning to formally ban women. An Adelaide barbershop says it's applying for an exemption to the Equal Opportunity Act to allow to formally ban women. The business describes itself as the last male sanctuary, and I kind of agree with it to a degree, but you can't ban women because women often take their young children in to have their hair cut. So what they're going to do is sit outside while their child is left alone with some strange guy cutting their hair. No, I don't think so. I like the idea of it, but I don't think it's practicable. We've got something similar in Wigan. We've got a waxing shop, which is for women only. It's called WOW, Women Only Waxing. So if I wanted to get my chest waxed, which obviously I need doing, as you regular viewers will know, my chest is in desperate need of waxing, I wouldn't be allowed to go there because I'm a man. It's women only waxing, which is the opposite of this, but apparently that's legal, so that's alright. This is the golden retriever again that we were talking about earlier, that went for a pet, and there it is lying down just before it rolled over onto its tummy. He might be a good boy, but he might be a good boy, but this golden retriever is no guard dog. A burglar in San Diego was caught in the act of stealing a $1,300 US bike, but the family's dog was just excited to make a new friend. That's what you like about dogs. They're just excited about everything, aren't they? Unless they want to rip your head off. But that dog obviously was just a nice dog. Popular US fast food giant to open up in Australia. The burger chain will roll out 200 stores nationwide. Now 200 stores sounds a lot, but then you realise, hang on a minute, it's Australia. So that's like one for every 100,000 square miles. America fast food giant Wendy's will be bringing its famous square meat patties and frosted desserts down under, with the goal of opening 200 stores across the country by 2034. I didn't know Wendy's was square, to be fair, because obviously I've never been to America, I've never had a Wendy's. Australia news, petrol paid continues with more bad news for Aussie drivers. Aussie city centre, where average petrol prices is $2.13 a litre. Now they're Australian dollars, which are worth bugger all, but that means roughly about the same as what we pay. But they're the other side of the world, so why is that such a thing for Australians? I don't get it. But it even carried on, warning us petrol prices hit 13-month high. Drivers have been urged to shop around for the best deals. Petrol prices hit a 13-month high in Australia. Got a nice sport. They're going to call it Sheila's instead of Wendy's. That's good. I like that one. I've just got to him in the shootings in America this week. No, you haven't. You missed it because we did a non-shooting special of America where there were no shootings, but there were some bizarre incidents that occurred, including a dog making friends with a thief in the family's garage, a dog running over a child with a golf cart, a car being parked in an upstairs bedroom, and a woman having her arm practically ripped off after a snake landed on it and then was retrieved by a hawk. But no guns. It was a gun-free. Which brings us to, and finally, I've been on for an hour. I didn't think I'd last an hour, I'll be honest with you. But I did have a bit of a ramp. I had a ramp. Yeah, I like a good ramp. Good for jumping. A ramp, you know, like, yeah, a ramp, you jump, yeah. I never used a ramp in my life or anything like that, I'll be honest with you. It's too scary. I'm just a bit of a coward when it comes to doing stuff like that. It's just, no, don't do that. New coronavirus strain alters sense of smell. Here's everything we know. UK health officials are warning about the dangers of the new coronavirus strain after a huge surge in cases saw figures more than double in just a few weeks last month. But it doesn't tell you what the thing is other than your smell changes. Well, that's happened since day one of coronavirus, who cares? Putin hit with hammer blow as Kiev's Motherland Monument replaces Soviet crest. So in Kiev, they've replaced a Soviet image on one of their monuments with the badge thing that Zelensky always has on his top, usually in the middle, but sometimes to the side. You can see the top of the thing there. Ukraine has replaced the Soviet crest on its iconic Motherland's monument in Kiev as a huge blow to Vladimir Putin on his plans to reunite the former nations following his invasion. I don't think it's a huge blow. I think he's got more important things to worry about. But not car sales in Russia, because Ladas are making a comeback after Mad Vlad orders his people to drive Russian cars. President Vladimir Putin has ordered Russians to swap foreign cars, such as Germany's BMWs, and go for local brands, Lada and Moskvich, to help kickstart vehicle sales. Would you go from a BMW to a Lada? No, because you'd have to obey traffic rules, particularly if it's a dark coloured BMW. Obviously white BMW drivers are absolutely fine, but if you drive a dark coloured BMW, you're an absolute... Anyway, Kim Jong-un goes Peaky Blinders with Tommy Shelby cap during weapon factory tour. Kim Jong-un was sporting a very stylish cap for the vast majority of a 3-day tour of various factories making deadly nuclear capable weapons in North Korea. Probably hiding his hair loss from being so close to nuclear weapons. UK Jeremy Kyle town, where kids and women steal rosemary oil and £100 wigs. The problem is so bad in Bolton. You're like, Bolton? The town centre has been compared to Jurassic Park and Jeremy Kyle, with business owners claiming that the thieves simply don't care. Who knew that Bolton was a crime hotspot? 57 swimmers get diarrhea at triathlon events, leaving them swimming injured. The competitors fell ill at the World Triathlon Championship Series with sickness and diarrhea after competing in sea swimming events in Sunderland, whilst organisers scrambled to find the cause. Well, we know what the cause is. It's the water companies just putting it into the sea. I mean, don't need rocket science to figure that one out. Drug-resistant fungus living in dogs' ears could jump to humans, a new study warns. You're like, what the... A critical priority pathogen living in dogs' ears could find their way into humans and infect the population. Yeah, right, okay then. So here's a thing for you. Don't pick your dog's ear and then eat the wax. Don't lick your dog's ear, and don't put your nose inside the dog's ear. And I think we'll be alright. Don't know, but we should be. A huge inferno rips through Britain's wonkiest pub and destroys it after closure. The Crooked House pub, in Grade 2 listed building, was engulfed in a towering inferno just weeks after thousands of local residents signed a petition to try and keep it open. I mean, it's typical. We want to redevelop something, so what we'll do is we'll run it down, and then it'll mysteriously catch fire, and then we have to knock it down, and then we can build what we want. But we couldn't have done that before because it was a Grade 2 listed building. Oh dear, what a shame. Allegedly, because obviously I've got no proof of any of that happening, other than the building did catch fire and has since been knocked down without planning permission from the council. Of course, if it's the council doing it, allegedly, that would be a different story, wouldn't it? But I mean, I've not seen any council would do anything like that at all, obviously, because they wouldn't. I'm called the Pumping Queen. I make so much breast milk, I own a world record. You're like, what? Elizabeth Anderson Sierra from Aloha is in the Guinness Book of Records for the largest donation of breast milk by an individual at 1,599.68 litres, or 2,800 pints of breast milk she has donated. 2,800 pints of breast milk she has produced. She's only 22. No, she's not. She's a bit older than that. Barbershop campaign. Oh yeah, we've done that one. What? It's in the wrong place. It's in the wrong place. Whoa. We've done that one as well. Okay, we'll do this one. Banksy. I like to put a Banksy in whenever I can. And if you've had a baby, or you know someone who's had a baby, and they've got all these monitors and things now that check on the baby during the night. This is basically, if you could buy this, I can imagine lots of parents would want it. But what you wouldn't want to do is have that in the room of a teenager, particularly if it's a male teenager. You wouldn't want that in there because you wouldn't know what they're getting up to in the room. Trust me, I've been there. Not in a teenager's room. I mean, well, I have been in a teenager's room when I was a teenager. Anyway, Putin hunting for traitors like Stalin times as he sees enemies everywhere. Between 1997 and 2017, there were just 101 treason cases in Russia. But in the first 7 months of this year, paranoid Putin's authorities have launched a whopping 82 cases. So, 1997 to 2017, so that's 20 years, there's 101 treason cases in Russia. But this year already, it's up to 82. He's not feeling threatened at all, would he? Is he? Would he? Would he? Is he? Would he? Would he? Could he? Would he? Should he? Horror collapse of world's third tallest structure still shrouded in mystery. The Warsaw Radio Tower, formerly the third tallest structure in the world, fell during a horror collapse where the cause of the propaganda's mass destruction is still shrouded in mystery. I blame Wigan Council. Yeah, they just like destroying things, allegedly. Crooked House should be rebuilt brick by brick. A Snapshaw pub obliterated. The Crooked House, known as Britain's Wonky Pub, was demolished following a devastating fire on Saturday, which came shortly after it was sold to a private buyer. It just stinks, doesn't it? It just stinks of corruption, the whole thing, allegedly, obviously. I thought I'd won £100 when when the till made a noise. I'm now getting £10,000 a month. Plasterer John Sembera bagged himself a life-changing amount of cash after taking a chance on a national lottery ticket, which has really set him up for life. It's basically set for life. I don't know whether anyone had actually won it or not, but this guy is saying he's won it. He thought he'd won £100, but he's actually won £10,000 a month for 30 years, which basically, if you're my age or his age by the looks of things, was for the rest of your life. Homeowner's nightmare after house crumbles and falls into river after flooding. Terrifying video shows trees and houses collapsing and falling into the Maidenhaul River in Alaska as shocked onlookers watch from across the water, yelling, "Oh shit!" Now that video, well, that's still from the video, kind of shows the house literally about to topple into the water and just get washed away. But the video itself shows that the house wasn't close to the actual river. There was quite a sizable lawn with a few large trees between the house and the river, and literally in 2 minutes all that had gone and the house went as well. But don't worry, it's not global warming, allegedly. Virgin Galactic's first civilian spacecraft launches with Olympian on board. A 3-person civilian crew became astronauts in a history-making flight from Virgin Galactic, which launched its first civilian spaceflight with an Olympian and 2 prize winners on board. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the 80-year-old is actually a former Olympic champion. I don't want him, I don't care. New car tax changes could see Brits lose 21 days of income due to a £3,000 yearly fee. So this is the Transport for London ultra-low emission ULEZ zone. Many Brits across the capital could lose up to 21 days of income due to new car tax changes set to launch at the end of this month. The ultra-low emission zone is expanding soon. We've already discussed this at length, and it is not going to save the planet. If anything's going to save the planet, it's China's just shutting down and letting the Brazilian Amazon rainforest grow back. That's the only thing that's going to save it. Anyway, 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's amazing what a difference it makes having zero gun crime being reported by me in America. Obviously, there was a lot of gun crime in America that I had to ignore. But yeah, it's pretty interesting, the fact that we've done this in record quick time. So where are we up to? Well, the highest peak we had was 12 viewers, which was literally a few minutes ago. We're now down to 9. Average view duration is 11.29. We have 49 views, which isn't bad in such a short period of time. We've currently got 8 people watching. Big shout out to everyone who's contributed to the chat. So Alan Barton, Smiley Mac, who probably didn't get back in time, the Super Gamer Plays, Luke Williams, Artemis, Foxstar, Sean J, and oh, hey up. Cat knows I'm finishing. She's come up for a stroke. She normally comes in when I go do the high pitch bye thing, but no, she's up already. What? Well, I'm going downstairs in a minute, and what? Don't look so pitifully at me. No. Puppy dog eyes. You're not a puppy dog, you're a cat. Let me tell puppy dog eyes, you're a cat. Yeah, put your arm down. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Whoops. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching, if indeed thou still art. And all being well, I will see you again next time, on Tuesday. Angela's sent her apologies, and she says hopefully she'll be back on again sooner rather than later. And yeah, I need to get on here now and see where we're up to. Dum de dum de dum. De dum. Oh, apparently I'm not on. Why am I not on? I thought I was on. No, it's not showing up as me being on. Hello? Hello? Where are we? What? What was that? Pitiful. What? 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 No, don't do that nippy thing. I don't like it. You get all nippy. I need to go on my channel then, don't I? I'll fit it there, my channel. What? Yeah, there we go. Oh, for God's sake, advertisements. Welcome. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. Right, there we go. Okay then, so thank you very much for watching, if you still are. All being well, I will see you again next time. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I'll be seeing you. Until then, bye! I can do it loud because it's late at night. But it's not late at night. I know what I mean. So yeah, I'm listening to myself, which is always a bit worrying. So, yeah, oh God's sake advertisements I'm saying now.